Thank you for joining us tonight, everybody. My name is Annalise. I run the SHLA program. If you've been getting emails, you've probably been getting them from me. If you have any questions about anything, I will put it in the chat. But you can always email outreach@swe.org with any questions. And as we get into tonight's session, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We have Honda, ExxonMobil, Honeywell, Avnet, the Catherine McQuaid Foundation, and Danaher. And as always, a couple heads up about tonight's session. First of all, it's being recorded. So if something comes up, you have to drop out for a second, or like you just want to review the content from tonight, I will send out the YouTube link sometime this week, and you can view the session there. Also, there will be a Q&A at the end of the session, so if you have any questions, I recommend writing them down somewhere, just because if you put them in the chat, it's easy for them to get buried. So just keep track of your questions and remember that there will be a Q&A. And I'll give just a quick introduction to our speaker tonight. We are joined by Jamila Parham. She's a multifaceted tech leader, speaker, community voice, and daughter of Chicago. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Computer Graphics and Animation from DePaul University and a Master of Information Systems Management from Keller Graduate School. Jamila is also the visionary behind the Tech Unicorn, a STEM social enterprise dedicated to amplifying and advancing underrepresented communities of color in the tech industry. So really excited to have Jamila here. She is so great. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to her.
All right. Thank you, Annalise, and welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me back. I'm so excited to be back at SHLA this year, and I am excited to be talking to you all about betting on yourself, thriving as a woman in STEM, more specifically, turning strength, support, and self-belief into success. And as mentioned, I am the founder and CEO of the Tech Unicorn. I'm excited to share a little bit more about that in the presentation today. So getting started, our magical journey together, betting on yourself. And you'll hear a lot more about that, Unicorn Magic, as that's the name of my business, and I'll tell you more about it. But I want to tell you a little bit more about my journey, and then also going into, your journey and learning about that, overcoming challenges, identifying your season of opportunity. We want to really celebrate your wins. We're going to have some activities, and then we want to do some alignment exercises so you can really kind of fall into what your purpose is and identify your Northern Star. And then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A, and I want to hear from all of you and get to know you, so we will save time for that. All right, sounds good. So jumping right in, sharing a little bit more about me. I am born and raised in Chicago on the South Side. I'm currently in Bronzeville, and I grew up in Morgan Park. I went to Morgan Park High School. I started my love of gaming in my career, and it led me to a career in STEM. And so when I started gaming, I didn't see a lot of women or young girls. It was just really male dominated. And so I wanted to do something about that. And it led me to be a STEM advocate. And so what that really means is, using your voice to advocate for others. And so there are communities that don't have access to, tools and opportunities. So I make sure that I speak out and use my platform for good. I've been in tech about 18 years. I'm going to share a little bit more about my journey. And I've also, in addition to being in tech, I've been an entrepreneur about 7 to 8 years with the Tech Unicorn. And right now I'm a senior technical account manager at Microsoft. A few things to know about me is I was nominated last year for Crane's Business Notable Woman in STEM. Also a Women Impact honoree, and Verizon highlighted me as a top 10 professional in STEM. So a couple things about me. Now, getting to the Tech Unicorn. This is my business. I founded because I was so interested in STEM. I wanted to create pathways. So I work with students like you. It was founded in 2016. And so it's really focused on impact work, on amplifying voices that are often not heard or in the room, advancing marginalized communities, and inspiring careers, and even entrepreneurship in STEM related fields. So I have a couple photos down here for some of the work that I was able to do. Chicago STEM Academy graduation. Arizona State University has a great engineering program. And then I've also worked with Black Girls Code. And so for me, my journey, and I'm going to share a little bit more about it, was a very winding road, but Being in tech for 18 years and starting my business about 7 to 8 years ago, I've been able to impact over 15,000 students through key partnerships and also local and national recognition. And the Tech Unicorn is proud to be based on inspiration, exposure, providing resources, a grassroots organization, and providing accessible role models. So there's a few photos here from Chi Tech Academy. We had a cybersecurity event teaching students how to be safe online when gaming. And then Arizona State University, as I mentioned, I was able to go there twice and work with the engineering students, if you look on the top left-hand side. And then finally at the bottom, we have sessions that we have done with Black Girls Code. So by now, I'm wondering if you all are questioning why you're seeing unicorns everywhere and why I'm saying unicorn magic. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. Why the unicorn experience? So for me, being a woman in STEM, when I started in computer graphics and animation, I didn't see many women and reflections of myself in the room. And so that caused me to kind of shrink back, not ask many questions, to kind of blend into the back of the room. And it made me feel like maybe I didn't belong there. And so when I started the Tech Unicorn, I really wanted to empower young women and girls to really use their voice and their platforms to shine bright and use their unicorn magic. So by definition, a unicorn is a person who thrives in an environment or a space that is not necessarily set up for their success. And they are a number of obstacles that you have to overcome. And so I know you all may identify with that, some things that you have overcome and achieved, and the path to betting on yourself. I'm going to talk about that today. So keep that in mind and keep that close. So here are a couple numbers when I'm doing STEM advocacy work that's really grounding exercises. I know that you all, or some, or a good portion of you all, are potentially interested in STEM or engineering. And so these are some of the things that the Tech Unicorn is working to shift. The consensus is everyone's the same and no one looks like me. 1 in 10 STEM professionals is a minority woman. And the percentage of Black and Hispanic employees make up only 1% of the workforce. And the Census Bureau shows that men are employed in STEM occupations about twice the rate of women with the same qualifications. So a lot of the work that the Tech Unicorn does is combating these statistics, and also the graphic on the side shows some of the numbers and representation in STEM that we are shifting and working towards. So when you all are going out with your bright futures and graduating, we want to see you thriving in STEM and having those opportunities. So let's do a little bit of a pivot. So Annalise, I'm not able to see the chat, but I want to get feedback from all the participants today. Which photo seems like a journey, a realistic journey? We have one on the left, which is just a start, looks like a straight road. And then we have one on the right that's a winding road, loops and heights and tunnels and all types of exciting things. Which one do you all think is more realistic when we talk about journeys?
Pretty much everybody is saying the right.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. So, I like to say that, your journey is like a jungle gym, right? You jumping from opportunity to opportunity. You are, doing different things. You're on the swings, you're on the slide. It's not just one thing. You really have to, be resilient. So yes, on the right is the correct answer. So going into a little bit about my career path, as you can tell, there's loops, there's heights, there's peaks, there's valleys. The first part of my career journey is, as I told you all, I started off in graphics and animation, and I graduated with a beautiful, shiny degree from DePaul University in 2008. And I was able to get a internship in graphic design. And I was very excited to do that. It was working with TomTom, which at the time was a handheld navigational GPS system, the ones that are in your phone now. It's the app, Google Maps. So that was something that I worked on as far as creating graphical user interfaces. And so, when you graduate with your degree, you just assume that you go out and you get a job and everything just happens, in a straight line. But on my journey, it didn't. If you look to the next circle, it was the crash of 2008. So the challenge for me here was I had this beautiful, shiny degree. I went out and I just assumed I was going to start getting jobs, and there wasn't really a need for graphics and animation. If you think about the artistic perspective when you're selecting your degrees, you want to make sure that, or subjects that you're interested in, you want to make sure that it's something that's core, that's required or needed to run a business, or something that involves day-to-day operations. And so the challenge I had with graphic design was a lot of businesses were restricting their budget, and they didn't have a lot of budget for art. And so at that point, I received so many denials for jobs that it was so discouraging, but I had to keep going. I would apply to at least 100 or so jobs a week, and I would get at least maybe 100 or so denials, right? And so for anyone that could be denied, that can be, defeating, but when you're betting on yourself, you know what you're capable of. And so what I did was, if you look at the bottom, it says hustle hard, right? You find another way. You find a way over, or under, or through. And so at that part of my journey, I decided to become an entrepreneur. And I did freelance graphic design. I started my first business. And so I worked with community organizations, doing graphic design for logos and events. And I started my own business in that way, and saw some success. But I decided, how can I make this something that has more longevity? And so I thought about what I wanted to do with my career. I love tech, but graphic design wasn't necessarily working out for me. So I decided to go back to school for information systems management and project management, because every company is a tech company. I know everyone has their phone, they have a million apps. Every app that you think of, or every company most likely has an app or runs on technology. And so that's what I wanted to major in. And also project management was getting things done, right? That's something that's transferable to many industries, and everything involves project management. So when you're aligning your interests, think about things that are important, that makes companies run or organizations run, when you think of what you want to do in the future. So when I got my degree, I landed an internship at AT&T working on cell towers, right? And that didn't make a lot of sense, from graphic design to cell towers, but I gained a lot of experience as an intern and made great connections in that program. And then I finally went on to be incorporated, which was my first corporate job as an IT project manager at Column Technologies, which is consulting. And the thing about that story was that I bet on myself. I never stopped working hard, and my reputation for hard work came with me. So when I went to apply for this job, the interviewer said, "Hey, we know about you. We had a referral from you about how hard you worked at DePaul University and the job that you had, and we definitely want you on our team." So that just shows that even though it doesn't seem like things are lining up for you or falling in place, as long as you continue to hustle hard, things will fall into place in the right time. So that's the first part of my career, and those are some of the peaks and valleys that I encountered. And here's the second half, continue to have a winding road. It didn't turn to a straight road here. So in 2015, I became an IT project manager at the Chicago Transit Authority. How many people are familiar with CTA? The trains, the buses, the shelter signs, public transportation. And that was a great experience because I became really fascinated with civic tech. I'm not sure if anybody knows what civic tech is, but it is basically technology that helps city and state governments and federal governments run. And so I was really passionate about technology that, makes our city better, that makes, it easier and more fun for tourists to come to visit our cities. And so we want to make sure it's safe as well. So I spent a lot of time at the CTA, which was great. But I also saw in that path that in technology, I still was not seeing a lot of women represented, in Black women. And so I wanted to do something about it. And I started the Tech Unicorn. And so I was doing my corporate job during the day, and then working with the Tech Unicorn all other times. And so I was at events, and I was doing panels, and I was sharing my perspective and my experience. And one of my mentors pulled me to the side and said, "Jamila, this is something that you can do more broadly. Not just at, Chicago, you can do it in Illinois and across the nation." And so it just grew, and it grew legs of its own, and it became a success. So I'm very grateful for starting my business in 2016. And so I've been doing that ever since. So if you look, you see the stars kind of carrying through. That's the unicorn magic of carrying through my timeline. And so in parallel to that, I've been modeling my corporate career along with running my own business, wearing many hats. And so that becomes a part of the journey of having your resilience. And I finally landed my dream job as a project manager and delivery manager at Microsoft, which I'm currently doing today, which is exciting. If y'all have heard about AI and Copilot, you all are using ChatGPT. Those are some of the things that we are working on with Microsoft. So I'd love to share that information and my experience working on projects like that. So that's a little bit about my journey and my career path. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about realizing your resilience, right? I can
Did we
imagine.
see if when
Oh, does someone have a question? All right, I think we had a mic. But we want to talk about realizing your resilience, right? You really have many superpowers and you have a unique voice, right? And so for me, it's about, speaking up. You have the same experience and the same, qualifications and the strengths and creativity as so many. And we lose so much if we don't have that at the table. So I want you to really lean into realizing your resilience. And so we're going to do a little exercise in a moment about that. So there's a couple things I want you all to notate when we talk about realizing your resilience and betting on yourself. Everyone is unique. Embrace yourself, your uniqueness, your strengths as a woman in technology, and making sure you're leveraging diverse perspectives. Always seek mentorship. You can never seek mentorship too early, right? And make sure you're supporting others. Make sure that you are building those connections. Make sure you're getting guidance, and also make sure you are getting encouragement when you are having challenges. Because the thing about seeking mentorship is people want to cheer you on when they see that you have skin in the game and you're hustling hard. So make sure you're pursuing your goals. Number three, make sure you keep learning and growing. Always be a forever student. There's going to be challenges along the way, and you really have to pour into yourself when it comes to personal and professional development. And make sure that you are always learning new things, tackling new obstacles and building your confidence. Being resilient and persistent. Overcoming those challenges is a journey, and setbacks are a part of that. And so, one of the quotes that I love, I'm not sure if you all know, is that, Rihanna has a tattoo called "Never a failure, always a lesson," and that's something that I think, is about being resilient. Is a part of how I go about my journey. Is you learn something from your failures. You learn something about how you were able to overcome it, and to not sit in failure and to not really focus on the negative things, but focus about the lesson that you can take from it so that you can improve the next time. And then most importantly, you have to make sure you support one another. What I found in STEM is that it's very male dominated, but I've had a lot of allies that help me along the way. And that it's important that we lift each other, lift as you climb, make sure that as you reach forward, you're reaching back and celebrating achievements of everyone, including your community, and fostering success for everyone. So I want to share a few things about supporting each other. When you go to events or even like this, there's a couple things that you can do to make sure that you are speaking out or betting on yourself and really having your voice be heard. Is even like today, in the Q&A, make sure you ask a question, right? Or share something, share your experiences, make sure you participate. A lot of times, everyone has different levels of being extroverted or introverted or asking questions. It's important for you all to if you see a peer that's maybe a little shy or has a great idea, that you create an environment to say, hey, Annalise has a great idea. Let's see what Annalise has to say. I think we should, look at that and consider that. So make sure you use your platform to advocate for others. Sharing opportunities. If you're not a good fit for something, or someone has a talent, make sure that you are paying it forward and pass that opportunity to someone else that may be a good fit. So I heard in the chat that you all are participating in a lot of different extracurricular activities. Trying new things and pushing yourself in boundaries and out of your comfort zone is huge. So always make sure you're doing that. And then also active listening. A lot of people want to make sure that they are heard. So make sure you're actively listening to situations and showing empathy for others' experiences. So those are a couple things that you can do as far as the unicorn experience and assessment, just to kind of check off and with yourself and see if you're tracking towards it. So this is a great way to support, speak out with your voice as well as support others. So this takes me to our next exercise. This is the first part of betting on yourself. You have to see how far you've come by what you've achieved. So I always like to create a brag folder, and I know you all may do it on your own time, but I want you to think six about 6 to 12 months of accomplishments that you've had. No accomplishment is too small or too big. Think about something that you're really proud of. And I want you all to share it in the chat. Drop a few in the chat. And even after today, I want you to keep this as a folder on your phone or your computer or your iPad of things that you've achieved over the last year or a year or two. So let's start dropping some in the chat. Let's create a brag folder. Oftentimes I don't think we brag enough about what we've accomplished. We show that sometimes in the statistics with STEM, that when we're going for opportunities, some boys or men, if there's 10 qualifications and they only have 6 or 7, they're going for it. But the statistics show that women, sometimes if we don't have 10 or 11 or 15, we may think twice, but we're overqualified often. So what I like to do is spend time on bragging and just not really bragging if you achieved it, but celebrating your wins. So let's see what's in the chat.
We've got some really awesome wins here. A lot of people with straight A's. Someone got a
Oh, wow.
1470 on their SAT, 35 on the ACT, selected for Math National Honor Society, advancing a lot in classical guitar, captain of the dance team, History and Music Award, more straight A's, dual enrollment program. Um, Got to be a chair at the biggest model UN in their country,
Wow.
um, and is going to be an undersecretary general at their school's MUN. Um, Made their dream sports team, started a STEM club for girls. Um, Proud
Stellar.
of how they did on AP tests, social media marketing manager and school's marching band, accepted in Girls Who Code summer camp, athlete of the month at their school. These are, you guys are so impressive.
Right. This is
I'm like, the
really
list goes on
impressive.
and on.
This is beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm extremely proud of you guys. And so I want you all to keep that brag folder, keep counting your wins, keep betting on yourself. I think we have to keep track of, sometimes you even forget, sometimes you look in your brag folder from a year ago and it's like, oh, wow, I forgot I even did that. So don't lose track of your wins because they literally add up. Okay. All right, thank you for participating in that. While you all keep dropping your wins, just want to share mine just to kind of model the brag folder. So it doesn't have to all be about, professional or school related, but for my brag folder, I make sure to take some much needed time off in San Diego. I landed a new position with my company. I had a Azure Fundamentals exam certification I had to take, and I passed that on the first try. There are some events that I was able to participate in with Loyola and been invited back. The Technical was recognized for a Leadership Award recipient for social impact. And so I recently joined DePaul University's board. And then finally, I reconnected with Society of Women Engineers. And so that is super special to me. I was here about a year or so ago, and so I'm very, very excited to be back. All right, good stuff. Thank you all for participating in that. I was so excited to hear about all of your wins. All right, so the next, exercise that I want us to take some time and think about, and it may take a little bit more time because you have to think about it. We're going to take about 10 minutes. So the Northern Star concept, I'm not sure if you all are familiar with it, but it is basically aligning with your passions, your skills, and what the world needs. And what you will learn in school for this concept is sometimes it's aligned to products, but I like to put a spin on it and use it for personal development. So we're going to do an alignment exercise. And so the Northern Star exercise is basically what achievements and your goals and have they aligned. So everything that you just put in the chat, does that align with what you're passionate about? Does that align with what you visualize your path to be? And then is it playing to your strengths? Is it playing to your passions? And then thinking about what you want to achieve personally, as far as your educational journey and what opportunities are there. So the point of that is to bring all of those together to make sure that you are following your Northern Star. A lot of times in my journey, when you try to figure out what path you want to take or what opportunities, you use a Northern Star to guide you, right? When you're lost, when you're making a hard decision and you're like, hey, is this something I want to pursue? Does this align with my passions? And you can often use the Northern Star when you feel lost, and it can lead you to what you're most passionate about. So I am going to show you my alignment exercise, and you all can do this individually. And it's basically a Venn diagram. And like I spoke to earlier, it talks about your skills, your passions, and what the world needs, and the professional opportunities or educational opportunities that you all are currently having. And if you look in the middle, it's how does all that align? And that's your Northern Star right in the middle. So I want you all to think about that and take a moment, and then we'll share it in the chat. So while we're doing that, I am going to go through my Venn diagram and my Northern Star, and how it helped me align to where I am today. So, as far as skills, I'm an entrepreneur, so I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I am very into strategy and figure things out, and problem solving. I've gotten feedback that I'm very organized, so I just accept that as something that is one of my skills. I'm very engaged with the community. I've had, a long history of educating, executing, and delivering. So that's why I became a project manager, because I was able to, get things done and across the finish line. And I also love connecting people. I love being around people and getting energy from them. And I love identifying opportunities and finding a person that's the right fit for it. So I love making those connections. And then I love doing things like this. I love inspiration, motivation, getting to know students and young professionals. So those are some things that are my skills. My passions on the left in blue: social impact, diversity and inclusion, STEM advocacy, coaching students and mentoring. And then a little fun part is sci-fi, cinema, and nerd culture. Like I love Star Wars. I love The Mandalorian. And I actually did Star Wars, the light side run in California through Disneyland. And so I just love and enjoy things like that. What the world needs, and what I believe the world needs, is advancement of communities that don't have opportunity, youth education and positive role models, training and making sure there's opportunities at entry level, and then also representation, allyship, equity, and make sure there are support for parents and teachers. And so that's a big part of you guys' journey too, is that you all have great teachers, you guys have great parents. And so I work with a lot of them to make sure that they have support and helping you find your path. All right, so that's my Venn diagram and Northern Star, and that all kind of aligns to what I do every day within my work as far as civic tech, and then also what I do for my business as far as the STEM impact work with the Tech Unicorn. So that aligns as my Northern Star. And so what happens there is when I have a new opportunity, or there is something that I'm asked to do or to participate in, I take a moment and I say, if I had to choose between two opportunities, I say, what is my Northern Star? Why did I start this? What am I trying to accomplish? And oftentimes when I look through this, it helps me realign to what is the best path for me, or what is the best opportunity for me based on my skills, my passion, and what I believe the world needs. And so hopefully this has given you guys a little bit of time to think about that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but let's start with skills. Let's start to share some of the skills that you all have or have developed, something that you're excited about and passionate about, and we could share it in the chat. All right, don't be shy. All right, let's move on to passion.
Oh, we did get some skills
Oh,
though.
you did? You did?
Yeah.
Okay, go back.
Um, Leah had said organization, spirited, enthusiastic, grit. I feel like grit is a really good one. We also have passionate about debate, anything K-pop. I guess where that's into the next one. We did get also solving problems, making and transcribing music, leadership. We're getting a mix here, but those are some of the skills that they put in the
Okay.
chat.
The quantitative, speaking, leadership. Love that. Solving problems. Analytical, that's huge. All right. And then let's shift to what do you believe the world needs? Sounds like a song almost. I think I could guess one thing. Volunteering,
Hmm.
helping the environment, advocate support systems. All right, this is all great. So, solving disparities. Okay, so definitely you guys keep this in mind, keep it in your back pocket. Think about your Northern Star. You don't have to think about it today. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure out. You won't wake up tomorrow and figure it all out, but think about how your skills, your passion, and then what the world needs. And it can kind of lead you into what you do in your personal life and also what you want to do as far as, your educational journey and also professional journey as well. All right. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that. I can't wait to keep up with all of you and find out what your Northern Stars are. All right. So we are moving into our last activity, which is the balancing act. Is balance a myth, or is it something that we can achieve? Based on the chat, you all have so many activities and so many things that you're focused on. And, there's only so many hours in the day, and it's about how do you achieve balance. I'm pretty sure your parents have that question as well, but for me, with so many things that are exciting and things I want to be involved in, it's about what is balance. You know, what is important to me. And I have a little exercise that helps me determine that. And so we're going to have you do that as well. So it's called rock, pebble, sand. I'm not sure if anyone has heard that. Rock, pebble, sand. And so this activity is basically like a balancing check, a balancing act. And if you think about it, your life is a jar, is this glass jar on the left. And you have rocks, you have pebbles, and you have sand. And then jar, you can only fit so much in this jar, right? And that's kind of how it is with life is you can't have a million rocks, you can't have a trillion pebbles. You only can choose how much you fit in there. So when you think about it, rocks are your priorities. They are your number one. You can only get so many rocks in this jar. And then you have pebbles, which are things that are secondary. They're important, but they're not as important as the rock. Then you have sand, and that's kind of like a little bit of the white noise and things that are like nice to have, or if I have time, it would be great to do this. I would like to do this. And so that's a little bit of the rock, pebble, sand. So I want you all to think about that for a second, and then I'll ask you in the chat what are some of your rocks, pebbles, and sand. But I am first going to share mine to hopefully give you an idea before we go to the chat. All right. So rocks, if you look at my life jar, I'm already filling up here. There's already, only so much I can fit in here. So a rock and rocks for me is family time. Of course, family is number one and very important to me. So I want to make sure, that I'm making time for that. Also summer planning. I live in Chicago and we live in Chicago. It's only so many, warm months within the year. And, you look up and it's winter all over again. So I want to make sure I go to enjoy some nice museums and some of the cool things that are going on in the city. And then a big rock for me is business planning for, this year and upcoming year for the Tech Unicorn, which is a big priority for me. Pebbles, I have some certifications I have to do, some tests I have to take. So that's a pebble for me. So I have to study for that. I carve out time for books and podcasts because I feel like that keeps me sharp. That's something I enjoy. And then candle making classes because I buy so many candles and I think that it would be enjoyable and a lot more affordable to make them on my own. So I do want to sign up for a candle making class and then sand. Writing content for my organization or outsourcing is a key decision for me. Right now with AI and Copilot, I know there's a lot of things and tools I can use to automate that so that it doesn't take up as much much of my time or my jar here. So that's sand, and then also additional board member opportunities. That is also sand because I only have so much time that I can dedicate or fill my jar up with. So that's my current life jar. That's my current balance of my rock, pebbles, and sand. So let's see, what do we have in the chat? Let's talk about some of the rocks for you all. Let's see. All right. Mm-hmm.
Isabella listed out family, academics, and friends. We have other family, friends, sports, personal fitness, schoolwork.
Those are good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go. Let's talk about. I see some rocks. Did we include? Oh, here they come. Food, family, and friends. I love this. School activities, future planning, college. Yes, that's huge. All right, let's get into pebbles. What are some of the pebbles? These are a little bit more secondary. They're on your radar. They're a priority, but they're not as big as the rocks.
I think Elizabeth had mentioned some prioritizing herself and what she likes, reading. Those were two of her pebbles.
Okay, coding projects, making time for me. That's huge. Yes, absolutely. That's a good one, Reagan. Coding, cooking, playing the violin. That's beautiful. Okay, let's talk about sand. What is something that you would be nice to do, but it's a little lower or a lot lower on the list? Let's talk about sand. I'm still seeing pebbles. Let's talk about sand. Think about that for a moment.
I think Isabella had also sent in some sand. She had put creating content and progressing in dance were two of her sands.
Youth government. Okay, I'm still seeing pebbles. Extra practice and studying. Logging, swimming, bird watching. Oh, that's exciting. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So I want you all to keep this in mind when when you're kind of prioritizing what you're passionate about or, balancing what you have going on with school and extracurricular activities. Try the rock, pebble, sand balancing just to make sure that you have what you need on your journey. And, I hope your cup, your jar runneth over. But you have so many exciting things. So just, use that as like a little bit of a check just to make sure that you are, achieving what you want to achieve and you are planning in the right way and making sure that you're creating space for yourself as well through that journey. So my jar will continue to change and update. And so I'm excited to see your future jars. All right. So, we did 3 exercises about betting on yourself. If you bet on yourself, you'll always win. So, the first thing we did was acknowledge our wins. We assigned our passions, our purpose, and our skills. We clarified our focus and our priorities with the jar exercise, the life jar. And that was something that I hope you all walk away with and you can take with you as you are aligning your goals and you're betting on yourself and you're encountering obstacles and you can use all those tools and exercises in the future. So I do want to leave you all with a quote that my mentor left me with, which is, something that's really special to me when I'm pursuing my journey is you are both the dream and the dreamer. And what that means is that you have the ability to come up with the dream, but you also have the ability to achieve it as well. So your journey is yours to define. So make sure you trust your voice, you're speaking up, you're advocating. Don't be afraid to take up space. Don't be afraid to push boundaries. Betting on yourself is not risky, it's revolutionary. Okay. And I hope you all walk away with that. So I wanted to share a few resources before we open it up to Q&A for the Tech Unicorn. The resources, a great celebration right here in Chicago. If you all are aware, it's the Grace Hopper celebration. That's a great conference to go to if you all are interested in. Some of the content that I used today came from a great book by Shonda Rhimes, for those that like to read, The Year of Yes, and Mindy Hart's that You Are More Than Magic. Those are some great books. And there are some cool podcasts about how I built this. Those are a couple things I like to listen to kind of become creative. You hear from innovators, entrepreneurs about their stories. And then there's some other information and also reports about getting into STEM and other data and some of the things that the Tech Unicorn is combating. So I'll be sure to send this out for you all and have it as a resource. And I want to thank you all for jumping on today. And feel free to keep up with me at the Tech Unicorn on TikTok, on Instagram, and Facebook. So I want to open it up for questions.
Amazing. Thank you, Jamila. Yeah, if you have questions, feel free. You can raise your hand or put them in the chat. I see there's one hand. Julia, and Sarah, either one of you.
Yeah, I'm Julia.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much for sharing all of those resources. First of all, I love how I built this, so I really appreciate
Oh,
seeing. The first thing is just looking at the career path you described, where first you went to college, you got a design degree, and you realized you couldn't find a job in that area. Looking back on it now, would you still have gone through that same path, or would you have picked a different major?
I think that, the path that I took was a path that I needed to take. I learned a lot of things when majoring, in computer graphics animation. It was still something that I loved. And I went to, college and I met some extremely talented people that I'm still friends with today. And I had that experience. And the good thing about it is, we have Canva, we have all these other things that we use today, and all your skills that you get along the way are transferable, right? So even though it didn't work out initially when I wanted it to work out in 2008, it did work out because when I became a business owner, as you can tell, there's many graphics, there's many skills you have to have, and I feel like it was one more tool in my toolbox. So if I had never done it, I would have never learned it. So I think that every skill is valuable, and every stop on that path, and made me who I am today. So it's all about embracing that.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I have a question. I know that you mentioned that you also play video games. I myself also play video games. It's usually to just de-stress and I find it fun. What games do you play and do you still play now?
I wish I had more time to, play games. Some of the games that I play, you all may chuckle at, played back, when I did play them. I really loved strong female characters. So I've always a fan of Tomb Raider. I love playing that. Halo, first person games. I liked, problem solving games. It's been a little while, but, anything that uses your analytical skills, anything to figure something out. And I feel like that helped me in my career where I was able to kind of figure out if I got stuck or if there was some technical challenges that I had, video gaming, helped me think critically when it came to figuring that out. So, you all have inspired me. I may get back into it. It is a great stress reliever, but, it got me going earlier in my career, but I don't have as much time anymore to game. So I'll be leaning on you all to find out what the latest games are and what I should be playing.
I definitely recommend Assassin's Creed, the newest one.
Oh,
It's honestly really
yeah.
good. There's a new female character in there. So whenever you do get the
Oh,
chance to get free
wow.
time, I definitely recommend. It's honestly one of my favorites.
Will do.
Thank you, Reagan. Priscilla, I saw your hand up next.
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm going to college next year, well, next in the fall, and I'm going to be studying computer science. And in computer science, it's like really common to have a lot of guys in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I really want to find like girlfriends who are doing cool things, like cool coding projects, and also will support me. But like sometimes I worry that I won't find any, because like I know in my high school, there's not that many girls who are doing computer science, like in
Mhm.
general now. And then like I feel like in college it might also be the same thing. So what would you do in a situation where you can't find any like friends who are doing cool things?
Yeah, I totally get that. When I started my journey, it was only two of us in the coding class. And it was me, and she's still my friend, really good friend today. And we took every class together. So each quarter, we would sit and plan, which classes we were going to take so we could take them all together. So it was good to kind of buddy up that way as well. But even though there's a small community, if there's not a lot of, women who are majoring in computer science in your particular university, there has to be neighboring universities, and even the power of social media, the power of, if you all are using LinkedIn, you can find your community elsewhere online. A lot of the times, we walk in a room, we're the only woman. We can also pull from a lot of our community and a lot of our support can be outside the room, cheering us on. You just have to find it. So it gives you the recharge, it gives you the confidence, it gives you the power. When you do walk in those rooms, you don't see a lot of reflections of yourself or a lot of women who are in gaming. You still have that support community, outside. So I would say, get a buddy, take your classes together or meet after class, have meetups. Some folks organize communities or like co-working, hours. So if you don't see anything like that, I would maybe challenge you to maybe start something as well. If you see a gap or you see something, a problem worth solving, that may be an opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to quickly also move and make sure we get some of these questions in the chat. There's one from Isabella. She asked, how can we transfer our hobbies that have nothing to do with our career to something that relates to us?
Okay, that's a great question. Can Isabella share maybe like what one of her hobbies, what are her hobbies right now?
I'm really passionate and have been for like the past 5 years constantly doing MUNs. Like if there is a MUN conference, you will be seeing me there.
Hmm.
Like I want to major in aerospace engineering and it has absolutely nothing to do with each other. I want to know like how do I transfer this like passion that I have for it into engineering?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes it can be okay for them to exist, separately in silos, and then you may find a point where they come together where there's synergies. So if you're thinking about aerospace, there's a lot of organizations, I believe there was Aerospace Avion Institute, which was started by a good girlfriend of mine. And so they had courses and conferences, and they, had events with United, American Airlines. And so I think you just have to network and, if don't force it, you know what I mean? If there's synergies, you can kind of create that opportunity. And sometimes the paths just cross organically. So if you have to enjoy them separately, that's okay. But if the paths cross, that's something that you should embrace.
That's really, really great advice, Jamila. I'll go on next to Anvita, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Hope I am.
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so yeah, I know we were talking about there obviously being like ups and downs and like loops in your journey, but like how that's all obviously part of the process. But like I was just wondering, what is like one mistake or like challenge you like probably faced like early in your career that you think like ended up teaching you something valuable?
Yeah, there's many to discuss, many things that in my career, kind of like the path that I was on, figuring out if you kind of went the right way. And so for me, I worked in civic tech. So I worked for the city of Chicago and I did a lot of public service. And so when I decided to go to Microsoft, I was concerned that I would lose my passion for civic tech and public service because that was something that I was very passionate about. Public sector is a lot different than private sector. There's a lot of different cultures and what you work on. And so the great thing that I thought was going to be a challenge ended up working out is that when I went to Microsoft, even though it's a private sector company, I was still able to work on public sector projects. So a lot of things we worked on was like court systems, correctional facilities, which were still civic tech. I just happened to be on the consulting side or the project management side of it. So for me, when I look back on that, I'm thinking, hey, I'm leaving that behind. I was a little hesitant about it, but it ended up being my dream job because I was able to continue to do what I wanted. and then also build my business as well, which ended up being a great thing because some other organizations felt like, building your own business can be kind of like a competing effort. It can be one of your rock pebble sand. They want to make sure that you're focused on your job. But when I moved my career to Microsoft, they encouraged me to continue to run my business, and they, supported me in my passion. So I think for me, when you're making those key decisions, again, following your Northern Star. My Northern Star was civic tech, and it helped me make that decision of like, hey, I can still go to this organization and navigate this path. I still get to do what I'm passionate about. So I think when I'm making decisions like that, I use the Northern Star tool, but I don't really believe that, like I said earlier, in regrets. I think they're all lessons. So even if you feel like you're going down an alternate path, there's a lesson in that, there's learning in that. And the beauty is you get to recover from that and overcome that. So I would just say shift the way you're thinking about it.
That's really inspirational. Thank you so much for answering my
Of course.
question.
Amazing. I think we'll make sure we'll go back and get a question that's in the chat. Samantha had asked, what do you work on with Microsoft in relation to AI?
Nice. Okay. Yes. So when I first joined Microsoft, I was a project manager and I did civic tech, and then I moved over to customer success. And so what I do at Microsoft is we enable teams to use Copilot. So we teach them how to use Copilot using the whole Microsoft Office suite. So, I know you all are familiar with Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel, and all of that. We teach them how to use Copilot to create reports and create agents and chatbots. Say, for instance, there's like an issue with HR, and there's a database that HR uses to pull information. We teach organizations how to create chatbots and agents based on their internal information. And so the goal is to take things that, say during a work day or a school day, how long reports can take or something like that. We want to reduce how long it takes, everyone to do a thing and cut that in half or less. So if it takes you 3 hours to run a report or to type something up, actually Copilot, we teach them how to use it so it only takes, a minute or two. So that's what we do, is more of user adoption, organizational change, management and adoption. So that just means getting end users prepared for a change, getting them ready to adopt the change and use it every day in their day-to-day operations. So that's currently what I do at Microsoft.
Amazing. Julia, I'll go back to you because your hand's been up for a little bit.
I was just curious, you mentioned a lot of really great advice today throughout everything that you said, but I was just curious, are there 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you wish you had known specifically when you were our age in high school?
Yeah, definitely. I would say one is you don't have to have it all figured out. One thing about me when I went to college, a lesson that I learned is, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, I'm a person that can overcommit no matter what. And one thing that I would take away is that it's okay to be agile. It's okay to, explore different subject areas. And so when I went to college, I felt, okay, I'm majoring in this. I'm going to see it through. I'm going to finish in 4 years. But there were other things that I was interested in that I wanted to maybe minor in, which may have meant having an extra year in college, right? And so for me, what I would say is it's okay. It doesn't have to be within that confine of what you believe it has to be. It can be more. So if you want to do a minor and it may add an extra 6 months or extra quarter to your curriculum, then it may be worth exploring. So that's one thing that I learned, is that, you can commit to something, but you don't have to overcommit. You have to leave a little bit of room for, innovation, exploration. Another thing that I wish I would have known is, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. I realize, and a lot of people realize, I'm not good at everything. Some things you have to learn, some things come naturally. But 90% of success is showing up, is what I've learned in my career. You may not know everything, you might not know how to solve it, but if you get yourself in the right space, the right opportunity, the right environment, that's 90% of success. And then the rest of the 10 is, figuring it out. So those are 2 things that I wish I would have known.
Thank you so much. That's great advice.
I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. I'll go back to one that's in the chat. Cassandra had asked, I'm taking a fundamentals of engineering dual enrollment class at a university, and I find that there is a lack of representation of girls in the class. Did you find that most of your technology classes were not diverse when you were in college?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I learned that a lot. And so um, most of the classes I took, one was in Visual Basics, C++, a lot of coding classes. And, like I said, I was the only woman in the room. And then, the classes I did take with my good friend, we were the only two in the room. And we literally clung to life to each other. We were fortunate to find a club called Her CTI, which was like, it's a Her Computer Technology Information group. And so it really brought young women together from all over the university and neighboring universities. And we just had like a block of a study hour after class. So, every other week, after class, about 1 hour, we will all just get our computers, just hang out and just do cool stuff, just, code or, work on projects and things like that. So I think really finding your sense of community because there's a lack of representation in the room outside of the room is very, very crucial. And so, a lot of the work that I do is to make sure that these rooms are more diverse, that there are more accessible role models. I encourage that as well as having, peer mentors and reaching out and getting mentors as well. And, accessible role models that you can reach out and ask about, hey, what does a day look like in robotics? And what can I do with robotics? So I think that ties into a lot of the work that I'm doing and then some sense of community that you all can create if you're not seeing that support in coding classes.
That's really, really great. I think we'll maybe end with this question from Reagan in the chat.
Yeah.
We get a lot of questions about AI. And so Reagan had said, I'm an engineer at heart, however, I do coding for my VEX robotics team. I'm attending a comp sci camp in a few weeks. Do you think AI jobs and careers will outpace engineering jobs?
That's a great, great question. And so, what we're seeing with AI, it is, catching fire. But I think there will always be, a need for, engineering jobs because, a human has to code the computer. There's a lot of machine learning, right? And so, we have to teach the computers, what we know and have checks and balances in place. A lot of things that we do right now is responsible AI, just to make sure that, AI does no harm. It doesn't, hurt, but it enables and it helps people be more productive. But just like AI, which is catching fire, I think every company will leverage AI in some way, but the fundamentals of engineering will remain core at heart. So I think that, it's important to pursue your passions in engineering, but I think we have to be, masters of all trades, right? Even in my career, AI is involved what I do. So I think it's going to touch all industries. So I think we have to be forward looking as far as innovation and, make sure we're involved with learning AI and how we can incorporate into our jobs and how it impacts our jobs and careers because it's not going away. So I think that, if you can do both and see how they tie in, you can always stay ahead of the curve.
That's really good advice and perspective, Jamila. For anybody who had questions that maybe weren't able to get answered tonight, or if after the session you think of a question, you can always email them to me or outreach, and I can pass them along to Jamila. As she's sharing on her screen right now, you can see the other ways that you can keep in touch with Jamila and just like follow along with what she is doing. Thank you so much to everybody who attended this session tonight. You all asked really amazing questions. Thank you, Jamila, for joining us, for telling us about your story, and for just giving some really amazing advice and insight. Just a reminder that this session was recorded, so it'll be available hopefully sometime this week. I'll send out the link to everybody. And I'll give just another quick shout out to our sponsors. We have Honda, ExxonMobil, Honeywell, Avnet, the Catherine McQuaid Foundation, and Danaher. Thank you once again, everybody. I'll be in touch about the next SHLA session, but I hope you all have a great rest of your night.